Hi, and welcome to the Modern Persian Food Podcast. We are food bloggers,
Bita Arabian,
and Bita Nazim Kelly, and we're here to share with you the rich flavors and fresh ingredients of Persian cooking and how to incorporate them into today's modern lifestyles.
We're excited to introduce you to the flavors, tastes, and techniques we use, and also our own cultural stories and perspectives growing up in the U.S. in a Persian family. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to episode 61. Today, we're talking about connecting to our cultures through food. We have a special guest on the show, Cynthia Banafsheh Samanian. She's a founder and CEO of Hidden Rhythm, a culinary marketing agency. And one of the many things she does is to teach cooking class business school, where she helps culinary pros like us to grow their cooking class businesses online. So in this episode, we're chatting up about her career, her go-to recipes, and some fun Ask the Beats at the end. Cynthia is a great example of a woman who's built on her bicultural upbringing to help others come together at the table. We're so pleased to have this conversation. Hi, Bita. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Bita June. Hi, Cynthia June.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you on the show. So to start us off, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and growing up in a Persian family?
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in a Persian home, which I always introduce myself with that because it really has influenced my not only personal life, but as we mentioned earlier, as we're going to talk about, my career. So I grew up in Seattle and have one older sister and my parents who are lovely, especially in the kitchen. And it's no surprise that I've been drawn to food as a profession, but it wasn't always that way. I actually had a few different careers before doing what I do now. I worked in finance, I went to business school and got my MBA, and then worked in tech here in San Francisco for several years before taking the plunge into the culinary space, which truly was something I've had my eye on for years, but didn't necessarily know how I was going to build a career in food.
I saw something on your About page. I love the way you described bringing people together, bringing people to the table, both literally and figuratively, breaking lavash together. So I'm just wondering, how did you initially use that background in your path to your business? And then how did you also pivot with recent events in the pandemic?
Sure, absolutely. So once I left tech, I decided to start a food media company. Now, the whole purpose of the site at the time, it was called Confetti Kitchen. It was designed to help millennials connect with their friends over food. And a lot of that was because of my tie to Persian culture and, how we would always have people over and, cooking endless platters of food. And just growing up with that, I felt like that was missing in our culture, especially people who are in their 20s and 30s who are craving that connection. So I built that website out and created content. And it wasn't just Persian recipes, it was a wide variety of recipes. The spirit of my website was truly around bringing people together. So what better way to do that than, actually having events? So I hosted dinner parties every month. It was called Confetti Kitchen Supper Club, and they were in-person events here in San Francisco. And it was my way to bring people together to the table to, like you said, break lavash. People loved them. But once again, I was really trying to build a business, and I had to think about how I could actually build a sustainable revenue model to support me now that I had left my tech job. So I made a pivot to what's called experiential marketing and rebranded as Hidden Rhythm, which is my company name today. Now, experiential marketing is all about helping brands get in front of their ideal customers through marketing in real life, like in the physical world. So the original vision of Confetti Kitchen kind of took me to that event world. And as you hinted at, I did have to make a pivot in 2020 because of the pandemic. At that time, I realized I needed to make a big pivot to keep my company alive, but more importantly, to keep doing the thing that fuels me and fulfills me, which is really working in the culinary space. So that led me to what I'm doing now, which is running a program called Cooking Class Business School, where I help culinary professionals learn how to create and market online cooking classes. So it certainly has been a windy path, but at the end of the day, I am all about helping people share their culture, share their stories around food with people who are excited to learn from them. Like I said, whether that's through events or online cooking classes, the medium has changed, but that really is the heart of what I do.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Cynthia. That's really helpful to kind of get the perspective of your journey and how being Persian kind of has like influenced you, and starting off with like the big events and then the hospitality. I think that what you're saying is really like honing in on the actual people who are participating in those events and the people who are actually coming to experience the food or the recipe or the cooking class. And really the reasoning I would feel that the people who are coming to those events is not just necessarily just to learn something new, but for a lot of people who have that kind of background to have a connection to their heritage, to their culture through the food. And so I think that that's like an important topic for us because, so many of our listeners are really craving to have that connection. And so a lot of people come to our show to listen to about the different foods and about our cultural stories. And just being able to eat something or eat some food or flavors that they've had when they were younger, but having it in a different part of their lives, I think really helps with that connection of not only being more fulfilling for themselves, but also sharing it with their families. Hopefully they're getting the tools, they're learning to make those creations at home and with their friends and their families. So I think that's really great. And I think that the platform that you're setting up for people to be able to do that is great. So kudos to you for doing that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Absolutely. And I will say this, I love what you brought up. There's a few different ways to think about it. And I often think about how my students, people who are teaching, can expose people to their cuisine, whether it's Persian cuisine or Italian or whatever. But what you shared is really insightful because it's also about connecting with your own culture, right? And having an opportunity to be with people or learn from someone who is teaching you how to make a dish that, maybe your mother made, but you never made the effort to learn. Even listening to episodes of this podcast, and I'd mentioned earlier when we were talking before recording that Omid from the Caspian Chef, he was sharing so many beautiful stories around cuisine from the region. And my mom is from Shomal. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, part of me just lit up. I got goosebumps almost because I've never heard anyone talk about these things that my mom would talk about. And I would be like, oh, wow, we're not alone. And I think that's really beautiful what both of you, Bitas, have created. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Persian cuisine is so unique. Just describing to someone the flavors, you have your sours and there's sweet and then there's savory, and you lose so much in translation. So being able to actually experience it and taste it and see how it's presented, I think adds so much to it all too. So
yeah, I just find it amazing that all of these things that we're doing online, our online presence, there really can be connections. And whether that be through this medium of podcasting, through the content that we share in our blogs, through cooking classes, we share our stories, and that connects us in a really unique and special way. And it just connects in our heart. And then it spurs conversations with the family members and friends. And that's really what it's all about for me. I just absolutely love getting the comments and connecting with people, even if it's through an email or a message through Instagram. There's real people there, and it's what fuels me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And me too. And, it's something, story comes up over and over again, but it is so important. And it's what, when I'm coaching bloggers and health coaches and anyone who wants to teach online, sometimes they come to me and they're like, well, Cynthia, they can just Google and get the recipe for free. I'm like, yes, but they're not paying to get the recipe, right? They're paying to learn how to cook from you, right? And that's so important. And so I think, especially with the cuisine that we have, and food is at the center of our culture, there's no way that you can just share a recipe and not tell a story, right? It's hard to maybe think of the story, but there is something there, right? There is something more than just you boil the water, you do this and you do that.
Right.
And so I think our culture, our food really lends itself well to truly building connection, because it isn't this commoditized thing that, you can find anywhere. When you are eating Persian food, there's just this spirit around it. And there's usually a great story or two or three that can be told at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you cook Persian food at all?
Yes. So I will share a disclaimer that I do have 2 children under 2 beautiful little daughters.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, if this doesn't sound like the most Persian thing ever, my parents who live in Seattle, I'm in the Bay Area, have literally overnighted frozen, pre-made
Yes.
Misa Kasimi,
Oh my
Horma
God.
Sabzi, Khoshta Badamjun. I mean,
Yum.
everything under the sun. Sir Torshi.
Oh my God, really? Well, I mean, I don't know if they have some extra sear turshi that maybe they could overnight to me too, but
I want the Mirza Qasemi, please. Oh, that is so sweet and so Persian.
So Persian.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's so sweet. I love it.
oh my gosh. And they have chickens and literally packaged up the fresh eggs, uncooked eggs, overnighted them so I could have the tokhmamor in my miso qasemi because that's what we have to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about experience, huh? I think they should start a business, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I got it from my mom. My attention to detail and like my just approach to like having people over, hospitality, which both personal and professional, like that is 100% my mom. So got to thank her for that. But I do cook Persian food.
What do you like to cook? What do you like to share with others?
Yeah. So if we can't be with my family for Nowruz, we always will have people over for Nowruz and we'll make sabzi polo bamahi and salad shirazi. Those are like my go-tos for Nowruz. But then we eat kotlet like every other week here. My husband is obsessed with kotlet.
Yum.
My daughter like loves it and takes it to daycare with her. So that's fun. But I love as well to make khorma sabzi, lubia polo.
Yeah, lubia polo is a good favorite, especially with younger ones too.
Yeah, kuku sib zabini.
You go, girl. That's impressive.
I'm a huge kuku fan. Like I pretty much talk about kuku like in every episode. But kuku sib zamini is like a kuku. I usually talk about fresh herbs or you can use other like ingredients or vegetables. And kuku sib zamini means potato. So it's like a potato, kind of like an omelet, potato like Spanish omelet type of thing.
Exactly.
Which is super delicious. That has like eggs in it and a little bit of flour and some Persian spices in there. And then what's kotlet?
My grandma used to make both kuku sib zabini and kotlet. I would describe kotlet as almost like a Persian hamburger-ish.
Like a patty.
How would you describe it, Cynthia?
So I used to blog back in the day and I had it as like Persian meat patties.
Meat and potato patties.
Yeah, exactly. But we use ground lamb. You can use beef. We use ground lamb, potato, egg, turmeric, onion. I mean, it's just it's so good. And you can eat it hot or cold. We actually bake ours, which it's easy.
That's great. I want to know how you bake it.
So it's traditionally fried. It has a very crispy exterior. It's just delicious. Almost like a falafel exterior because it's typically deep fried, but it sounds like you do a more modern and healthier version, which I love.
Yeah, this is the hack. This is the mom hack. We put them on a sheet pan with parchment and we bake them because one uses less oil, which I'm not afraid of, but it's more the mess. Like I don't like frying because of the splatter and little kids, and it's just not a good idea. We bake it like a meatball recipe that instead of pan frying, you can bake it. So I think we bake it at 350 for, maybe 20 minutes, but they turn out great, super tender. You don't get that crispy coating around that fried, delicious coating, but you also can make them faster. You don't have to do like 6 at a time or whatever your pans can hold.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I want to know, how do you eat them? Like, what's your side or accoutrement? My girls eat everything with ketchup. So they would have kotlet, any form of kotlet or kuku with ketchup.
I've had it with ketchup before. Sometimes I will like have a little bit of sriracha.
Ooh, love it. Modern, yeah.
My husband, he's French American. He was born in France and spent a ton of time there, but grew up in the US. And so food is really important to him. So we're so aligned on that. Like we sit down for every meal and it is a ritual for us, which I love. And he's like, oh my gosh, I will never put a sauce on the kotlet. Like to him, that's just like, a disgrace.
No.
Right.
Je ne sais pas, no.
Yeah, for Persian cuisine, he's just like, I will not insult your cuisine by putting anything on it. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to use ketchup and sriracha.
Yeah.
But I usually, what do we make with it? We usually have salad shirazi with it. We've also made like sandwiches with it, with like pita.
I was going to say they're great in sandwiches.
Yeah, they're the best.
So kotelet's the traditional form shape of a kotelet is kind of like an oval patty shape. So do you keep that same kind of shape when you bake it in the oven?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I'm totally going to try that because, to your point, it actually saves a lot of time. You don't have to stand there and fry each one individually and not burn it. So that's great. My favorite way to have kotelet is made with like a pita or a lavash, but with fresh herbs. My favorite is like having a bunch of fresh herbs with it and then kind of wrapping it up in like actually a lot of times they take a tortilla and kind of just like in a pan, just kind of like toast it up a little bit, wrap it up around the kotelet and have fresh herbs in there. That's one of those foods you can have for breakfast, you can have it for lunch, you can have it for dinner, anytime. A party, have a platter of those and have those all ready to go.
Yeah.
That's my type of party.
Yeah, I love that.
And you make korma sabzi too?
I used to make it more often, not all the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I have like the dried lime balls. I have the chambilile, the fenugreek. My mom, I think she grows it now.
Oh, great
They're
idea.
total homesteaders. It's really funny what they do up in Seattle. So she has that and all of the herbs. Yeah, I have them. I usually buy them all fresh though, if I can, not the fenugreek, but everything else. It's just so much work to chop up all those herbs. And I haven't brought myself to buying the pre-made or the frozen.
The mix. Yeah, the ready to go.
I haven't done that yet, but
there are shortcuts. So that's impressive. I want to know. So we mentioned that, we both have girls, mine being much older and yours are still babies, but thinking to the future, what do you hope to pass down with regards to Persian culture and food to your kiddos? Mine are off there in college trying to fend for themselves and survive, and they aren't making korma sabzi, but they are playing around with easy things like masta khiyar, and they definitely love Persian food, and with a little bit of French, a little bit of Persian. What are you hoping to pass down and sort of role model and give them?
Yeah,
and what connection that they can have to their heritage.
Right. Okay, so they're each going to get a Pars rice cooker so they can make tahdig.
Yes. Requirement.
Pars is the brand name of Persian ingredients and tools.
This episode is not sponsored by Pars, but it should be.
No, it's not.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, no, honestly, we bought that 2 years ago, and it is a game changer because it makes tahdig without even having to lift a finger. It's the easiest way to have tahdig. And I know my girls are going to love tahdig, and they're going to leave and go to school or wherever they go, and they're going to want tahdig, and they're not perhaps going to have the time or patience to actually make it the way that my mom makes it. And
yeah, in a pot.
In a pot, exactly. So they're each going to get a Pars rice cooker. But on a more serious note, I think the thing for me, yes, recipes for sure. I want them to continue the recipes in the same way that I've taken my parents' recipes and maybe tweak them a little bit to make them more modern and fit our lifestyle. But I think it's more about this, just remembering that, food is truly a way for you to warm your home. My mom says, I don't think it's a Persian quote, but she says something along the lines of, you can tell that a house is warm when the kitchen is busy.
Energy.
Exactly. When people are cooking, it just fills the home with warmth in so many ways. And so no matter what they make, hopefully Persian food, or maybe it's going to be beef bourguignon, whatever it is that they're making, I think realizing that food is more than just food. It's more than sustenance. It truly is a way for them to connect. My parents were immigrants here, as I'm sure many people listening had a similar story. And food was their way of bringing people into their homes and getting to know their neighbors and exposing people to a culture that seemed really foreign and scary at times. And I just think holding on to that, remembering that you can have a very different background. You can have a different lifestyle, whatever it may be. You don't have to be the same as the people that you're around, but if you bring them over, break some lavash, right, you can really build connection. And I think that's the beautiful thing about not only our food, but just sharing food in general.
That's beautiful.
So well said. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think that we're all hoping to like leave the next generation with some tools and inspiration for them to be able to experience, you know, all three of us grew up in both parents being Persian, but kind of with like blending of families and things like that. I think it's definitely important to have a tie to your culture, and food is the perfect means to do that, because it's not only just the flavors, but it's also the experience and getting together, and even like the presentation of the platters and like the events that we come together at. Nowruz you mentioned, but other holidays, things like that. And those are great opportunities to share that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I will say, I mean, I am so proud to be Persian, and growing up, it wasn't always something that we kind of put out there because people didn't understand what that meant, right? But today, like as an adult, oh my gosh, like anytime you tell someone you're Persian, right? If they've had Persian food, their face lights up and they get excited.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to happen for my children at an earlier age. I don't want them to wait until they're in their 20s and 30s to run into someone who's had Persian food. So for me, like I have this vision of having more people, you know, enjoying our cuisine, especially outside of our Persian community, so that we can share what we have.
We have a common mission.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to hide your khorma sabzi that you take to school because kids are going to make fun of you. They're going to instead want you to share it with them, and you eat their ham and cheese sandwich instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a great time to be able to share with others. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that. Thank you so much. So Cynthia, Jim, we have a segment on the show called Ask the Beats, where we take listener questions or questions we have for ourselves. And in this case, since you're here with us on the show, do you have any questions for us to answer for Ask the Beats?
Absolutely, Beats. I do have a question. So as you know, I help people learn how to teach online cooking classes. So I want to hear from each of you. If you could teach someone, ideally someone who's not Persian, how to cook any one Persian dish, what dish would that be and why?
Okay, Bita, go ahead.
I absolutely have an answer for that. So the question I get asked the most, whether it be through Oven Hug, my blog, or through this channel, Modern Persian Food. In fact, I just got a question this morning through Modern Persian Food, is about tahdig. So tahdig is absolutely the Persian delicacy that if you've tried it, I bet you'd love it. And it comes in 3 varieties. It comes in crispy rice, it comes in potato tahdig, and it comes in bread or lavash or tortilla tahdig. That's our modern one. It's kind of like the French fries of Persian food, but I get questions all the time. How do you make it? How do you get it to come out right? What kind of rice cooker do you use? What kind of damkoni? Can I make my own damkoni? And so we have a whole episode on it. I have a blog post on it, but I would love to teach a class. That is a dream. I just want to teach a class. I want to have you with me, Bita June, and we're going to teach this class, and we're going to help you walk through making a beautiful, perfect, crispy, crunchy, golden tahdig.
I love it.
Yum. Okay, well, so you kind of took my answer, because I think when people think about Persian food, they think about tahdig, the crispy rice or potato or bread, the crispy layer at the bottom of the pot that's cooked properly and inverted. And like, it's just such a delicious and interesting culinary experience. Yeah, definitely tahdig. So if I had to pick one dish, it's kind of like tahdig, but I think that a dish that is really appealing to a lot of people. See, it's really hard for me to pick like one of something. Like, what's your favorite?
You get two classes.
You get buy one, get one free today.
There we go. So what I was referring to is like a tachin. So a tachin is actually a baked rice dish that has that tahdig. You invert the like casserole pan, invert it in this huge cake-like tahdig on the top of it, and it's cooked with yogurt and egg, and if you want to put chicken or other protein in there, and it's like cooks in like for like an hour and a half or something in the oven. It's our baked Persian rice dish, and I have a recipe for it that I call like jeweled tachin, and that has like barberries and orange peel and pistachios and almonds and garnish with that. So I would say for my main cooking class, I'd do a tachin, and for the second cooking class, I think I would do like a appetizer sampling platter. Just keep it to one dish. It would be Persian appetizers class.
Fun.
A lot of the Persian appetizers are like just assembly, like the Sada Shirazi we referenced a few times today. It was like cucumber, tomato, and onion chopped up, and you just mix it together with like a little bit of a dressing, lemon and olive oil dressing, or, talked about masto labu, which is like yogurt and beets. You could get pre-cooked beets and kind of make that and assemble that together. So there's a few appetizers that are very easy to put together. So I would say tagine for the main class and then the appetizers for the bonus class.
I'm signing up for all 3 of these classes, by the way. Absolutely.
Awesome. I think this is a great opportunity. If people listening, are you guys interested in Bita and I cooking a cooking class virtually and hopefully one day in person? Let us know. Give us feedback. We always love to hear that.
I love it. And that'll give us an opportunity to the 3 of us to keep working together.
Exactly. Cynthia, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences with food, with being Persian, and also in your professional career. Where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much to both of you for having me on. This was such an honor to talk about our Persian culture and food and all of that good stuff. Now, if people listening want to learn more about me and the work that I do in my coaching program, they can go to Hidden Rhythm. So it's just spelled the way it should be, Hidden Rhythm on Instagram, and then hiddenrhythm.com is my website. So you can learn more about me and my background on either one of those platforms. And send me a DM if you're listening and you like what you're hearing and you want to connect. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. And you have your own podcast, Experiential Table, for like more of a marketing focus. And we'll link to all of that in our show notes. So if anyone wants a direct link, then you can just scroll down in our show notes and get that. As always, thank you for listening to Modern Persian Food. Feel free to subscribe so you get the latest episodes every week. Every Wednesday, we have a new and fun episode. Thank you to co-host Bita, Cynthia for our guest, and for all our listeners listening to today's show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Bita and Beata. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.